Hello everybody, Corey here with noobcomputerbuild.com. I'm here today to give you a quick overview of some builds that I am recommending for Call of Duty Black Ops 3 with its recent release. I'm going to do a couple builds here, one for a 1080p build and one for a 1440p build. These builds are designed for those that want a game at 60 frames per second with the game maxed out. Now you can play the game with less hardware and lower end graphics cards, but however these are aimed for those that want to either upgrade their current rig to play at max settings or that are building a gaming PC with this game being their priority game and wanting to know that they can play it at 60 frames per second. These builds are based on some benchmarks, not that I did, but that I found, and as well on some GeForce, on some of the GeForce recommendations that they have made on their website as well. So without further ado, let's get started. The first build, or sorry, not the first build, but here are the benchmarks that from Guru3D.com. They rank a bunch of cards using 3 different resolutions, one at 1080p, one at 1440p, and one at 4K, and so at Ultra HD. And so you can see here, the builds that I do below are based on this, loosely on this chart. And so what you see is the kind of the dark middle one there is the 2560 by 1440, and then the higher end one is for those that want a game at 1080p, but and then I don't have any builds for 4K, but if you want to know the FPS you can get out of those, you can kind of use these, but the highest frames per second you'll get using a 980 Ti is only 39 frames per second, so you'll probably have to go SLI or Crossfire if you do want to get 60 frames per second doing 4K, but those aren't benchmarked here, and the builds for that are not available here, just for your information. But getting started with the basic build, so the basic build being the 1920 by 1080p build, if you want to max it out, 60 frames per second like I said, what you're going to have to use is the hardware here. And so what the major driving force here is the graphics card, and so what you'll see is that we use a GTX 970. But for the processor, we're just using not the unlocked version, but just the standard i5 6500 Skylake processor that comes out to $199.99 around there. And so this is, I'm trying to cut costs as much as possible here, especially for those that follow the builds every month here on the channel or on the site. You'll notice that this is kind of a scaled down processor. But the cooler, since it doesn't come with stock coolers, Cooler Master Hyper 212, Evo $28.99, a motherboard. We're able to use a H170 motherboard, but we have the MSI One Gaming M3 here for $116.99, and the graphics card being the GTX 970. And so this is the card that'll get you where you want to be. So you can see on the chart here, 1080p you'll get 70 frames per second, and even on 2560 by 1440 you'll get 47 frames per second. If you consider 40 frames per second the minimum kind of FPS that you want to get to, this build might be okay for some people that do want to pump up the resolutions there as well. But and then so for the RAM, we have 8 gigabytes of DDR4, such as this Crucial Ballistic Sport pack here for $54.99. Now the game requires 6 gigabytes, but I would recommend 8 gigabytes as it was quoted in a few articles I read that the game does max out the 8 gigabytes. It caches quite a bit, so this is kind of the minimum RAM I would suggest if you do want to max out the game. For a hard drive, we just have a basic HDD Seagate 1TB drive. You can go with an SSD if you want, up to you, just have to spend a little more, but you get a little less space. But this is $49.34 currently. Power supply, EVGA Supernova 650 G1 for $85.11. And then the case I paired with this is a Corsair Carbide Series 200R. It's a standard, kind of a sleek looking case, $65.95. And I did not include an optical drive because you do not need one nowadays, but if you do want one, there's an example here. This build should come out to $860.96 or $861. Now, for those that want a game at 2560 by 1440 and max out Call of Duty Black Ops 3, that's what this build is for, but it'll set you back a little more. This one comes out to about $1,327. And the processor I used here is the Intel i5-6600K. This is the unlocked Skylake processor, so you can overclock it quite easily, and it comes out to about $317.29. The cooler is the Cooler Master Hyper 212 Evo, just like the build above, for $28.59. And then the motherboard is Asus Z170K for $138.99. And now here, the graphics card is the EVGA GeForce GTX 980. This is the card that you want if you just want to get 60 FPS at 1440p. This comes out to $489.99. We'll just jump up to the chart to the top. So you can see the GTX 980 is where you want to be for 2560 by 1440. You'll get 62 FPS, right on par where we want to be. 87 FPS on 1920 by 1080, so it's a little more than you'd need if you're just gaming on 1080p. And then at 4K 31 frames per second. And for the RAM, I bumped this up to 16 gigabytes of DDR4, this Corsair Vengeance LPX kit for $88.99. The reason I went with 16 gigabytes here is because on Guru 3D, in their article, they stated that 8 gigabytes RAM was fully utilized, but using a 16 gigabyte system, things definitely felt and ran a notch better. Hence the reason why I would recommend going with 16 gigabytes. For hard drive, I do not include a standard drive, but we do have an SSD in this build for the Samsung 850 EVO, 250 gigabytes. I do recommend an SSD. It does improve boot times and load times significantly, and it just makes your life a lot better. And this comes out to $86.95. And for the power supply, we have an EVGA Supernova 750 G2, $92.10. And a computer case for the PC case, we have the Fantech Ento Pro M. It's the green version, $84.99. And like I said, this comes out to about $1,327. And so that does it for these two builds. This is just to give you a quick idea what you would need to max out Call of Duty Black Ops 3, since it just came out and all the benchmarks have been rolling out in the last few days. So if you have any questions, please leave a comment. Otherwise, visit the blog at noobcomputerbuild.com. All the hardware will be linked in the description below. And until next time, thanks for watching.